Hey y'all, this is Dr. Cunningham. I'd like to discuss a very near and dear topic to my heart, and that is having a lot of family members. Now, I am a girl who has family who originate from the South. And as many of us know, historically speaking, when you are, from a family that may have worked on plantations or literally had their own farms, the more hands that you had, the more children that you had, was very helpful with regards to maintaining the farm and the family business. So, there's a particular mindset that goes through history that dates back even to the Bible days. But at the end of the day, I have a mom who is one of 10. My dad, he was one of 3. But then also I have a stepdad, he was one of 7. And to have 3 sides of my family, so the Cunninghams, Jordans, and G's, means that anytime I'm going to a family vacation or a family reunion, or even when I go to church, the majority of the people that I see are family members and even extended family members, because I also have other family members who are cousins to me. So, for example, like the Wrights, like the Jameses, like the Luckies, or the Bryants. We're all connected because we're all family. The Robinsons, we're all family. We're all relatives. And so, it's great to go to a church when you have relatives that are a part of your ministry. But as you get older and the dating scene begins, it's like, I want to go as far as possible away from the church so that a sister can date, not only to be able to meet someone that who isn't a relative, but then also so that that particular person is not going to be hounded while attempting to just go on nice dates. I mean, it doesn't even mean that it's going to be anything serious yet until after you've gone on a few dates, and then you realize, oh, okay, it's a potential of something that could continue going. And then you have to, essentially introduce the person to family, and then they just gonna keep meeting family, keep meeting family. And to some people, that can be overwhelming. At the same time, anyone that's going to be in someone's life will have to be accustomed to or to get used to being around a lot of family. And so, with that being said, it was a two-edged sword. That's what I'll say growing up. Because again, it's always great knowing that you have someone that you can call on if necessary, even though I still was quite independent and didn't really call on people until I really, 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 really needed help. But I'm the type of female that, if I'm in a situation, I know how to help myself. Okay, so I don't necessarily look for other people to help me. Even growing up, when, we go through that phase of having to prove yourself and stuff like that, and I'm not a fighter. Like, I really am a person that cares more about love. But when I did have to fight, I did when I was younger. When I got to high school, thank God, that ended. But I remember fighting, and I didn't fight females because they were just scratching and trying to pull hair and stuff. I was fighting dudes, like people that were bigger than me and stuff like that. So I don't even get into matches with somebody that can't go toe to toe. But that's neither here nor there, even though it is a part of kind of like my personality and way of being. But again, I really am a peaceable person. And I also am a person that focuses on love and God's love, agape love. So that, it has to do with the love of loving people. And what I'm speaking to is also just the understanding of having family and making sure that there's an understanding where family is, and then also as one matures, being able to speak up with regards to boundaries regarding family. Like, one of the boundaries that I have to maintain regarding family is this: I cannot professionally and ethically counsel anyone who is a relative. And so that means people whom I go to church with who are relatives, again, cousins, aunts, uncles, and grandparents and parents and step parents, cannot provide treatment to them ethically. That is my professional ethics, and I will not ever put my license in jeopardy for the sake of providing clinical treatment. Now, that's different than providing education, information, or knowledge. At the same time, I've invested a lot of time, money, and energy into the knowledge that I've gained, not only through my education of 15 years in college, but even post college. all of the seminars that I go to and all of the different additional certificates that people may not even be aware of that I've spent money on and time and energy to make sure that I'm aware of. So all of that goes into the even the pricing that I share, with my clients and what they have to pay for, because all that time, energy, and money has gone into the investment of my particular skill set and knowledge and what I know that I'm well versed and can excellently implement and teach. And so again, having an understanding of where boundaries are with regards to family, because there are times where I've even, literally was dating a nice gentleman, brought him around my family, and that is a great test, actually, ladies. And I'm going to say that as an example, because if a man is surrounded by a whole bunch of women, because the majority of the females that are going to show up for things, especially if they think it's going to be a guy. Now, some of the guys will show up, but depending on the situation, like for example, when I had like a little housewarming situation, the majority of like my cousins and stuff showed up, and there a lot of them were female. And then so this particular guy thought he was just going to sit in the middle of the room and just bask in the ambiance of all these black women. And it was a white guy too. I told y'all know that I like my Caucasian gentlemen. Okay? Now, it doesn't mean that I dislike any other cultures. I love my brothers. And I love my Hispanic gentlemen, but I'm just saying the ones usually that I attract are Caucasian guys. I don't know. I don't know if it has to do with the mindset, if it has to do with being, intellectually sparring or, but needless to say, is that it was a great test for him to be around my family, because he went and just decided he was going to just sit in the middle of everybody. And they just start having all these wonderfully just nice and just really fun and just so friendly conversations. And then that let me know after that two things, because I was still young at that point. So I'm talking about kind of like the first guy. And he was older than me, again, because I usually attract older guys as well, because I'm quite mature for my age. And I've always been mature. And ahead of my years, always a bit ahead of my years. So with that being said, I ended up, trying to step in between them. But then it taught me two things. One, I don't give a rip if you're family or not. If you're a woman and you know that man is with me, why you all up in his face? But the reality is that, again, that was my womanhood that had that particular, viewpoint. But then it also allowed me to see, because again, we were still early on in our dating, even though we had dated for a while, because I already know after like one or two dates with a gentleman if it's going to work or not. I don't even waste people's time. If I meet you twice and then like two or three times, and then it's like literally, and we sit down, we have real thorough conversation, have an understanding of your mindset, and we've sat down and had dinner and discussed things, and then no, then I continue on. But at the end of the day, this particular gentleman, it was quite clear that he still had play in him. And I'm not one to try to make someone settle down. And especially if the guy is not going to be willing to. We just continue on. So I'm sharing all of that to say is that, having family and having community can also help you with regards to protecting you from a situation that could potentially lead to a situation that can be a heartache later on. So I ended up having a conversation with my aunt. I believe it was maybe like a week later at a family event in which the gentleman did not go to, even though I did invite him. And I asked Auntie, what did you think about him? And he had a very, very European sort of name. So I said, because again, I don't ever share people's information. And any information I do share on social media has to do with my life. And then if I ever share examples regarding clients, it's never any identifying information, and usually a culmination of many different stories. So no one's information is ever being shared, and no one could ever say that there's any identifying information, and HIPAA is never violated. So with that being said, again, I said the gentleman's name to her, and then she was just like, no, Norja, you about to go and get your PhD, girl. Like, just go on. Like, just let him go. Now, that broke my little brown skin girl hearts. It really did, because I was like, oh, I like him. Now, I'm willing to deal with, the battle, because at the end of the day, that's always going to happen because every female is going to try to test whether she is with another man or not. If she is, because I've met women who literally are married and they still try to flirt with another woman's man. So there's some of the dynamics that I am privy to and was already ready to handle the battle that was necessary to make it clear who he belonged to. Now, at the same time, I also understood what she was saying because now that I'm older, because in the beginning I was so highly upset with her. And this is the reason why I know that obedience is important. And again, I don't want to get all preachy and stuff, but the word does tell us that obedience is better than sacrifice. And this particular aunt is really like a matriarch in our family, but then she also really is spiritually in tune, meaning she's a prophet and she knows the word, and she also can discern people's way of being and their spirit and all of that. And so, in the beginning, I was so upset about it, like literally not in front of them, because I'm always, there's certain things about me, like I can be very studious, stoic, but when I got home, because I in front of them, I was like, I'm act like a Jeep, like this not gonna bother me, like yeah. But as soon as I got home, I was like, no, I don't want to. Ooh, just crying, like I gotta let him go. We're doing so well, you know what I mean? Because we literally had conversations about being able to while I when I moved to New Hampshire, I was going to get my PhD. He was going to get his PsyD, and then also the potential for us to be able to discussing future plans about potentially marriage, and he already owned a home, and you know and I was looking into purchasing property at that point, and so we had plans. Like we were already planning life. And so, with that being said, sometimes, our plans can be derailed. At the same time, the plans that we were planning could sometimes end up being a deterrent or a distraction from our purpose. Because when I think about it now, and the doctoral program required about 7 years of my time, and that's because I went through the academics 2 years solid. I was okay, lived in New Hampshire. After that, I completed my internship in Connecticut, which brought me back home, and I was actively a part of my ministry. But literally, it was a situation where I realized, in order to still actively be a part of ministry, and this white guy, I mean, he read the Bible, like he would send me scriptures on the regular, and I was like, man, he's being more churchified and biblified than me. Um, but at the same time, it was a situation that where it could have deterred me, because I wonder if at this point, if I would already had some kids, if it would have taken me even longer, because I was working a full-time job while going through school. And at the same time, there's so much duality regarding what I've learned, because even though I'm glad that I followed through obediently with regards to what was shared with me, not from the perspective of saying that I didn't think it through, because I thought it through. I didn't just automatically just say, boom, because I still met with him a few times. Even years later, I met up with him and just to see how he was doing, and he could see how I was doing, and, still were cool. But at that second time around when I met him, it just dwindled, which let me know that it's something that wouldn't have been long term, because we were at two different spots. So maybe he was motivated during that particular time in his life because I was present. At the same time, you know, there are situations or relationships that can lead to a person not stopping you on your journey, but being a weight that you have to carry in your journey that might cause your journey to require extra time. So it's always better to find someone that really is at your pace, because I'm a go-getter. I'm a producer. And I want to do more than just produce kids. And not to say there's anything wrong with producing kids, meaning I think if you want to be fruitful and multiply, do your thing, girl. Or gentlemen, you know what I mean? If y'all want a bunch of kids and to be great parents of a lot of kids, I think it's awesome. Because again, I'm a product of a mom who's one of 10, and I think it's awesome to grow up with a lot of siblings. Um, at the same time, again, I believe that the focus that was required in order to complete the task, and the consideration of the gentleman, his perspective, and his way of being may have brought about some deterrence. And in my field of study of counseling, education is required. It's not like it's an option. Some people can become apprentices in particular fields and just work and study under someone, and they can do very well. But as a counselor in the United States, and even in Connecticut, if you are going to provide legal counsel, then you got to be licensed. And a license is, what occurs after the prerequisite, which is at least a master's. But in order to, enhance one's knowledge, skill set, knowing interventions and strategies, getting a doctorate is just next level. And so, it's interesting when I consider my life and what I have experienced, how close I've been to marriage, but then sacrificing relationship for the sake of greater opportunities and greater relationships. But it doesn't mean that the guy wasn't a great guy. To this day, he was a great guy, and he will always have a place in my heart. It doesn't mean that he has the pull. I'll never forget. But I also continue to move forward, recognizing that my future is so important to me that I am assured that I will meet others as I go along on my journey that will bring about a greater dimension or pull from me, a greater version of Norton. And so, I'm just grateful, because at the end of the day, the only way to grow is to not only utilize what God has placed within inside of you and doing the best that you can with that, but then also making sure that you have good people around you who also have an ear to God's mouth that's going to tell you the truth, and that have great wisdom connected to them. So I'm wise because I've been around wise people ever since I was young. I'm talking about since I was like 1 year old, just sitting under wisdom and then just hearing wisdom teachings and just absorbing all of it. And so I remember being in elementary school and being around friends and family, and people like, Norta, why are you so wise? Girl, you're only 5 years old, girl. Why are you over there acting like you about 25? Well, if I know, and then I just know. And if I know it's the truth, I'm going to tell you the truth. Why are you going to sit there and get yourself into a middle of a messy situation when you know your life deserves better than that? So you can go and mess it up if you want to, but just understand, be ready to deal with your own consequences. Don't try to put your consequences off on anybody else, because no one made that mess but you. And maturity says, if I did something, then own it and then do something about it. And so wisdom is just, it's a matter of principles. It's a matter of standards and a way of being. So it's not religiosity. Even though, again, I claim Christianity and Jesus Christ, but I don't have to express it in a way that I can express it in a way, where people are able to understand exactly what I'm saying, and don't necessarily have to be a Christian. Now, with regards to my family, I love y'all. Now, my family members, if y'all would like to, y'all can still purchase one of my books. If I happen to have an open seminar, y'all can attend. But if I'm providing counsel, no, y'all cannot attend any of my counseling, because that's my license, and professional ethics says I cannot provide counsel to my family members. So until next time, I bid adieu. Y'all have a great one. Love y'all.